Hello, Nets fans, and welcome to the Brooklyn Buzz podcast. I'm your host, Nick Fay. With me again, my guy, Jack Manuell. How you doing, Jack? How are you feeling right now? I know it's been a stressful week.
Look, Nick, I was expecting a lot more than a loss to the Suns and the Lakers going into the weekend. Let's just say I've been in better spirits. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, quick shout out to Jack, though. Tomorrow is his birthday, so happy birthday, Jack.
Thank you very much, my friend. Thank you very much to all the fans listening.
And Jack, any big plans for tomorrow?
The girlfriend actually has a surprise day for me. I'm all about
surprise. Nice.
Surprises. I like surprises, as long as I'm not taking her to some weird haunted house because she's a big Halloween fan. So I don't want her to like freak me out and take me to some weird out in the middle of nowhere, some abandoned insane asylum. So hopefully she takes me somewhere where there's sports or burgers and stuff that I like. I'm sure she will. She's a keeper.
All the good stuff. Hopefully a positive surprise for Jack, who is a great writer, great podcaster, and a great person. So happy to have Jack part of the OTG team. Also check out his podcast, JBT Pod. But before we get started talking about the Nets, as always, you can listen to the Brooklyn Buzz podcast on iTunes, Blog Talk Radio, OTGbasketball.com. Make sure you subscribe, review, let us know what you think. But let's talk about this harsh week for the Nets. We'll start with Tuesday's. Yeah, harsh isn't even a good description.
We need better adjectives. It was deplorable, demoralizing. I need to get my thesaurus, Nick. Give me 5 seconds.
I like demoralizing. Demoralizing fits really well.
Yep.
Especially like you said. I mean, we're not a great team. We're not a super talented team, but losing to the Suns and Lakers, especially losing to the Suns Tuesday at home, 122-114. We had an 8-point lead in the fourth quarter. Yeah. Midway through, it looked like, and we just had that nice run in the third. I think it was 20-something to 2. So the Nets were really grooving. Things were moving well. Next thing you know, the Suns turned around. TJ Warren was a beast on the offensive rebounds, got a couple putbacks, really put the Nets in trouble. And next thing you know, the Suns are walking away with the W.
Yeah, the Suns were the ones that had their rally, and they timed their rally at the right time. We were up by, as you mentioned, Nick, with only, I think it was just a bit over 6 minutes to go.
Yep.
And they came back from 18 points down, and they went on a 24-6 run. Was absolutely ridiculous. But I guess that's going to happen with a young, inexperienced team that's still learning, like the Nets. I'm not advocating. I'm not saying that there's excuses for the loss. It was a game we definitely should have won against the team at home as well. We had the lead, had the momentum. We just, again, it's on the defensive end. We haven't been active enough. We haven't been engaged enough on that end because our offense has been fine. We're scoring like there's no tomorrow, but we're giving up 120 points. I think from memory, we've given up
120 points in 7 of the last 9 games.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Our defensive rating is deplorable. I think Coach Kenny mentioned after the Lakers game that the fact that we've got a few days off, and we talked about this in our last pod about the fact that we need to get some practice in. He said that he's looking forward to getting the guys ready for a few practices and going through some film and going through it in the gym and sort of working on those defensive mechanisms. And I think that should help. We thought it would have helped going into the Lakers game, but unfortunately not.
Yeah, that definitely, the defense, like you said, has been bad on multiple levels, especially the pick and roll defense, but also the rebounding. The Nets have been getting killed on the boards. I think they were out rebounded that game 66-44. So that's just not acceptable. And obviously they have to play small because they don't have a lot of front court talent. So it's important for the guards to really help, but it just hasn't, it's just been lack of focus on defense and rebounding wise. It's tough to lose a game like that at home when you have that nice run. The momentum was going with you, and then you just kind of blow it to a young team. Hats off to the Suns, though. They've been playing a lot better since the changes have come there.
Yeah, but I think you mentioned the rebounding. As a team, we're 25th in rebound percentage in the NBA. And a lot of that is our front court. In fact, it would be 90% our front court because guys like Rondé having the energy. Damari Carroll is doing well. But you have a guy like Mozgov, Tyler Zeller. The injuries to Booker, Allen, and AC the past few games have been significant and have really sort of hurt us, especially on the defensive and the rebounding. But, when you are the guys that you're expected to step up. You're NBA level players. You're paid to rebound as a big man. Like literally, Mozgov has no other really discernible skills other than rebounding, and apparently he can shoot a 3 or 2. But I would rather him get 10 rebounds a night and shoot no threes than shoot 2 threes. Like to me, it doesn't make sense. It makes sense in our motion offense system, but he's an okay rebounder, but he's just not rebounding.
Yeah, I mean, if he's out there, he should be dominating the boards. That's his main goal. But we'll talk about the defense in Mozgov a little bit later. You know, and it wasn't a great shooting night from three-point range, under 30%. But let's talk about Friday's loss, last night's loss to the Lakers, D'Angelo's homecoming to LA. You know, a lot of talk in this game. Brook Lopez's first game against the Nets. Kyle Kuzma, I know people are kind of making a reference to that, but I mean, there's not really much on that because the Nets could have taken him if they still wanted to.
Yep.
But D'Angelo, Brook killed him. The Lakers come away with the W. What are your thoughts on last night?
Deplorable from 3 again, Nick. Like even worse, 23.7%. And I think what's lost in it is what we concede from both ends. So against the Lakers, we conceded nearly 43% and over 51% from the field in general. Dinwiddie getting into foul trouble really didn't help us and forced D'Angelo to play a lot of minutes. And you know, D'Angelo's defense leaves a lot to be desired. I think the injuries again, we really lack the bodies. But I'm going to give a hot take about the whole Russell-Lonzo debate. D'Angelo Russell is going to have a better career than Lonzo Ball. I hope Lakers fans are listening to this Nets podcast and for Nets fans, D'Angelo, he will get it all together. He's 22 years old. Like he's only 20 months older than Lonzo, and Lonzo can't make a bucket to save his life. If you've got the offensive end, defensive end takes mindset and takes energy and takes engagement, and that will come for D'Angelo. I'm confident of that. Whereas Lonzo, he can pass the ball. Other than that, I don't know what else he can really do. He's one of the more hyped picks, overrated picks for me this year. If he was to be redrafted, I'd say he'd barely crack the top 5 with guys like Donovan Mitchell playing. But you know, I'm a Lonzo hater, but I'm a D'Angelo lover.
I mean, it's definitely a real possibility for that to happen. We don't know. Like you said, both these guys are super young. A lot can change, but I'm happy with D'Angelo. I knew like last night he was either going to press and really have a good game or a bad game. It looked like at first he was going to have a good game. He took a little bit too many threes. I think he only hit one of them too. You know, he needs to get to the rim a little bit more. And there was a few times where he tried to do it all on his own, but he also had a couple plays where they were just disgusting. You know, the handles, the layups, and the passes. He's such a good bounce passer. That's one thing that sticks out about him. But enough positives about that game. You mentioned the three-point shooting for the Lakers, and a lot of that was due to our guy, Brook Lopez. You know, he's on the Lakers. We still love him, though, but he killed us. You know, he killed us outside. He killed us inside. He killed us everywhere.
6 3-pointers from Brolo. We saw it all last year, and it was like everyone was expecting the D'Angelo revenge game, but it was the Brook revenge game. But Brook's not that kind of guy. He's just I've written an article for another outlet saying that Brook Lopez is the best player on this Lakers team. And I think people need to realize that and get off of the Lonzo, Kyle Kuzma hype train. He's a proven performer. We've seen it for 10, 12 years in Brooklyn, how good he is. He's going to have those nights for the Lakers. And against a guy like Mozgov, it was almost inevitable. He was toying with him. You know, Mozgov's getting out to the perimeter, he's so immobile that it was going to happen. He was toying with him. He was bullying guys like Rondé down low and Karis LeVert at times as well. It was almost like it was meant to be. It was almost fate. But I'm glad he at least helped you in the FanDuel, Nick.
Yeah, at least he helped me win some money. But like you said, he just abused the Nets. He abused Mozgov. Like we know Brook's not fast. So Mozgov had a chance against anybody being slow-footed. It'd be Brook, and he just got demolished by him. You know, they put Rondé on him, and like, no offense to Kenny, like it would probably work for a little bit, but at points in that game, they just need to throw double teams at Brook. He's not an amazing passer out of the double team. We've watched that for a long time. Like he's good at throwing that bounce pass to a cutter on backdoor, but other than that, you know, his passing is not be desired. He's made some really bad passes in the past, so at least try to force the issue, especially with guys on the floor that aren't necessarily great shooters. That's one thing I think the Nets need to work on is their help defense. You know, at times there's guys on the floor that aren't great shooters and they're sticking to them on the perimeter. Like you need to help your team, especially when you're getting killed in the pick and roll. So I think that's something to keep an eye on. Like you mentioned, we didn't shoot well again. the rebounding again, 57-43. We just got owned inside again. So, like, if you're going to lose the rebounding battle by double digits every night, you're not really going to have a good shot at winning the game.
No,
and if you're going to shoot under 30% from three, especially in this offense.
And I mean, Crab, we mentioned we weren't going to speak on the positives, but I like the fact, I was encouraged by the fact that Crab came back, because his game against the Suns was pretty, to put it bluntly, piss-weak. It was poor. But the fact that at least he could have a good night, so there was some minor positives to take from it. But it's the same problems. So, I mean, if it's the same thing happening, surely it's going to have to turn around. The only way is up. But unfortunately, the only way was down for us after the Suns game. You'd expect, to shoot better from three, especially with a good night from Alan Crabb. But you mentioned D'Angelo; he was chucking, rather than actually playing in the motion, playing in the rhythm of the offense. That seems to be the key word coming out of a lot of the Nets guys and the Nets coaches: rhythm. The rhythm hasn't been there the past two games, and hopefully we can get it back in the coming days.
Yeah, you mentioned Crab. One thing I really like from Crab in that game is something I've been hoping that he would do a little bit more is guys have been overplaying him at the three-point line a lot, especially on pick and roll. There's been time where he's had an open shot at the rim and he's pulled up from three. Last night he was attacking more at the rim, especially in that fourth quarter. The Nets had a couple more and ones. And I think that's something the Nets just need to do more. They need to attack the rim. They don't have a ton of great finishers, but they at least need to, force the refs to make a call. You have a better chance at making a layup than a contested three. So I think that's something where the Nets need to kind of attack a little bit more. But just a rough loss. Let's talk about – go ahead, Jack.
I was just going to really echo your sentiments there, Nick, because Alan Crabb mentioned after the game the confidence that it gave him just to see the ball go in the bucket. When you get to the free throw line, the charity stripe, you see the ball go in, it just automatically gives you that positive reinforcement. Basketball's a mental game in so many ways. Guys like Rondé and Karras especially, I mean, Rondé's been quite good. He's been quite solid. But a guy like Caris LeVert, if he can just force his way, he's got the handles. You've mentioned it, and we love his handles. If he can get into the paint and get into the rim and put up a shot, there's not many guys that can stop him. He's quite quick. He's quite crafty. And then from there, I'm not 100% sure on his free throw numbers, but, he's not going to be Dwight Howard by any stretch. So, and you're going to see the ball go in, and that automatically gives you that positive reinforcement. Even D'Angelo, he forces it too much. Like, he needs to sort of play more in rhythm, and I'm echoing the sentiments of Kenny. Get to the line, get some calls, and slow the game down a little bit, because it seems like our pace is number one in the NBA with 109 possessions per 100 minutes. 109, which is ridiculous. It is out of this world. We were one of the top teams last year. I think in a way we almost need to slow the game down a little bit, sort of calm it down, and get the tempo going in our own way rather than forcing the issue like you've mentioned, Nick.
Yeah, definitely. I think sometimes, especially we saw in the fast break yesterday, there was a sequence in that game. It was either early fourth or late third, where the Nets pulled up on three straight trips.
Yeah.
And they weren't even nice open looks. They were fading away, going to the side, trying to draw contact. Just, not good stuff. You want to get some easy baskets. Like you said, seeing the ball through the rim just really helps in basketball. It's a mental game. You mentioned Rondé. They said that he saw a sports psychologist this summer, and that really helped his game. Yep. Able to forget about the last play. And I think it's really made a big difference for him. He's been obviously a bright spot. Can't complain about him. He busts his ass on the floor. He works every night. And I have, even for his shortcomings, the mistakes that he does make, you really can't get mad about it because he hustles so hard all the time.
And that's what you want. You want it on both ends of the floor. If he's going to put up a shot, he misses it. Yeah, sure. That's the mental capacity that he's got now. He's matured. He's got confidence. He's got comfort. He's been our most consistent performer with Spencer Dinwiddie. Spencer Dinwiddie last night was a bit struggled a little bit just because of that foul trouble. But for me, Rondé has been our glue guy, for lack of a better term. And I like the partnership. I like the influence that I think he can have on D'Angelo. I like this young core. I'm hoping he can have an influence on Karras as well, sort of slow him down a little bit, use his NBA nous and experience, And the fact that the guys can look to him, guys like Caris LeVert can look to him and go, well, look, if Rondé can turn it around, then so can I. And it can happen mid-season. It doesn't have to be a whole season and an off-season for it to happen.
It could happen next week.
It could happen next week. There's a week is a long time in basketball. Look at what's going on with the Cavs after that 57-point performance by LeBron James. Everyone's hailing them as Eastern Conference finalists yet again. So a lot of things can happen in a couple of weeks in the NBA, and hopefully for us Nets fans, that means a few wins.
Yeah, before we move on to the front court, you mentioned Rondé's relationship with Caris and D'Angelo's relationship with them. You see D'Angelo and Rondé talking a lot on the court, whispering things to each other. They have done some good work in the pick and roll. I don't know the numbers off the top of my head. It also looks, we've mentioned this before, D'Angelo and LeVert have a relationship before this, being on the same team together on the Nets. Yeah. So you can see that. You can see the confidence that D'Angelo has in LeVert. So I think, moving forward, like you said, there can be more of a groove. LeVert, he just needs to see the ball go through the rim. His jump shot is a little bit messed up right now. It's not the same on every release. His mid-range jumper looks a lot different from his three-point shot. Obviously, for some guys, that's the case. But, sometimes the follow-through on the three-point shot doesn't look there. It almost looks like he's shooting a knuckleball sometimes from three-point. It's just no rotation, and it's just like he's launching it.
Yeah, and I think that a few days off and a word to a few of the assistant coaches will certainly help Caris in that respect. I think he needs to get to the line a lot more because his jump shot isn't his weapon by any stretch. Yes, Coach Kenny preaches, shooting from the perimeter by any means. But we mentioned it, and it's going to be a theme. Don't force it. If it's not, the shot isn't there, don't take it. Make the extra pass. And if it's a turnover, so be it. Because it's a learning process for guys like Caris LeVert and D'Angelo Russell. But I really like the chemistry that those guys have. You can see it off the court. You can see it on the court. The Brooklyn swagger is certainly very much in them.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, we've had some front court injuries. In the Suns game, Jarrett Allen and Quincy Acy were both out. Lakers game, Trevor Booker, Quincy Acy, and Jarrett Allen were all out. So we got to see a lot of Mozgov and Zeller, and it was not fun to watch. Both these guys really struggled. Zeller did a few things all right, but both of them can't really catch the ball in the paint. There was a few times where they got, they weren't easy passes, but they're passes that you kind of expect your center to at least grab. Maybe they don't finish the layup and they have to pass it out, but at least get the ball. And defensively, they got abused in the pick and roll, a lot of fouls. They just, for this type of NBA, and they lost focus a few times with help defense. So what are your thoughts on Mozgov and Zeller right now?
Look, Nick, I was reading a nice article on the fan side website for the Brooklyn Nets, Nothing But Nets. They posted the idea of dropping Mozgov to the bench a few days ago. Obviously, that's impossible when you have so many guys out, Allen, Booker, and Acy. If and when those guys come back, do you think it's the right move for Coach Atkinson to send Mozgov to the bench and change his role?
I mean, I would not mind it. I wouldn't start Zeller. Maybe Jarrett Allen is healthy. It's really tough. The Allen situation is weird because he's a rookie. He's also not a very big rookie. He doesn't have the weight that's going to be able to hold up for all season long, I don't think. I don't think you could really play him, expecting to play 25-plus minutes a game for the rest of the season, being that small and being a rookie and not having a lot of other big bodies on the team. With that said, though, I think he could still start. And then you have, Booker as your backup center on the bench like they kind of been doing, and then maybe bring Mozgov in for some minutes. Like, I think Mozgov could be better in a smaller role and against backups, but against starters, just in the pick and roll, there was a play in the Suns game. Tyler Ulis got a pick sent. I think it was either Alex Len or Tyson Chandler. The point guard's, pretty tight on him. They're going over the top, and they have Mozgov stepping back. Mozgov is literally almost in front of the rim. The guard isn't even to the elbow yet with the ball. So it's just like he's in a terrible position all the time, and he's just not fast enough to defend. I don't know if it's the pick and roll defense, the scheme they're trying to run. He's not comfortable, but whatever he's doing, it's not working. And not only are teams scoring on, instantly on the pick and roll possession, they're also getting mismatches if the Nets are able to recover some way, and then that ends up in a bucket. So it's just like a lot of problems with Mozgov on the court. And offensively and rebounding-wise, he hasn't done anything. He hasn't dominated the boards. He's shot a couple threes. He's only hit like one or two. He's missed a ton of layups. So it's just like, what is he really doing for the team when he's on the floor?
No, he's not doing anything really, Nick. And you mentioned that pick and roll defense. The pick and roll defense should be his bread and butter. And I mean, D'Angelo is a culprit there as well. But it forces guys like our wings to sort of help and take them away and leave open shots where we've been quite vulnerable from the perimeter. Why teams are shooting over 40% against us, 42%, I think it was almost 50%, the Phoenix Suns were. So it really affects not only his game, but it affects the team as a whole. I would like to see some preseason sort of lineups that we saw. Booker and AC out there for spurts. Rondé at the 5, playing super small lineups, doing some some Golden State Warriors light lineups, whether it's starting or whether it's playing them for longer stretches. We're not going to win 40 games this season. We're not a playoff-bound season, playoff-bound team. Let's experiment. Let's see what we've got out of these guys. Let's see what we can do with this small ball. I think the small ball works better with our offense. And then in turn, because those guys are so much more mobile, they can get back in transition D. And that will help both ends of the floor. Whereas Mozgov in transition is like watching a turtle in transition. It's like I could not. The first animal that came to my head was a turtle. There's probably an even slower, less agile animal. Turtles are cool.
Snail.
I don't think maybe a snail. Yeah, I think a snail's probably even worse. So he's a turtle. He's a snail. He's bloody slow. And whereas you got a guy like a Rondé, Booker, and AC, these guys give you energy. And that's what we've lacked when we have Mozgov out there slowing us down, giving up rebounds, giving up 6 3-pointers to a guy like Brook Lopez. Now, he wasn't on him for the entire game, but he was getting wide open ones. I remember there was a play where he was just hanging around probably about 10 feet, and Brook makes them. He's not, Hassan Whiteside. You can't give him 5-10 feet of open space. You need to guard him. And he just left him open. And it was just like, are you switched on right now? It seems like his IQ has dropped, if anything, since his Cleveland days, since his Denver days. Maybe it's this offense that and Coach Kenny's system that just doesn't suit him. But he needs to figure it out, because he's with us whether he wants to be or not.
Yeah, ever since his knee injury with Cleveland, he's never been the same player. He just doesn't have that same pop. So he's just, at this point, like you said, maybe they'll bench him, maybe go with Allen at the starting lineup. And Zeller, Zeller has done a few good things, but you can't really play him either. There was times where he had the ball right in front of the rim, and the Lakers were able to have a guard come up and snatch it from his hands. So it's really tough when you're not getting any production out of your center position at all. And it's kind of ironic if you think about it, because for the last 4 or 5 seasons, the center position maybe has been one of the Nets' best positions, having Brook Lopez. And now he's gone, and now it's by far their worst position, and it's not even really close.
Now, Nick, I saw your Twitter earlier today, your personal Twitter. You posted a cryptic tweet, so to speak. How much do the Sixers want for Okafor? Asking for a friend. I think that it is imperative that Sean Marks gets on the phone to Brian Colangelo and asks, what do they want? Now, for some reason, they think that they can get an asset for him, despite the fact that his value has dropped exponentially, and that they have only themselves to blame. But there's been talk of Boston, where I really don't see the fit, to be honest. Whereas with the Nets, I see a legitimate fit. Yes, his defense is lackluster, but so is Mozgov's and Zeller's, for that matter. At least Jahlil can get you on the other side. He can get buckets. Even if you have him as just a bench presence, even if you just have him as a body, he gets buckets. Like, there was talk in these first few games for Philly. He was dominating on the offensive end. He was posting 20-10 games like there was no tomorrow. And ever since, Joel Embiid and Nerlens Noel sort of supersede him in the rotation, his value just dropped. Whereas I think it'd be just a really nice fit in Brooklyn. He needs a new start. I read an article on SB Nation. He likes going to the cinema in New York as well. So, it's not as far of a trek from all the way from Philly. He doesn't have to catch the train. We've got some cool cinemas out in Brooklyn, out in Manhattan. So I think, Sean, get on the phone to him, mate.
Yeah, honestly, at this point, I wasn't a big Okafor guy, earlier in the season, and that's making a move because I don't know if he's a great system fit, but in terms of roster fit, they really need a center. And why not take a chance on a 21-year-old expiring contract? You don't like him, you don't have to keep him, and you just see what he can do. Like you said, he's not really going to be much worse defensively than Mozgov or Zeller, and he has a possibility of getting better because he's only 21.
Exactly.
And at least he's somebody you can throw the ball to on a roll to the rim, and he could probably finish it. Like right now, the roller to the rim, other than Jared Allen, is really in Trevor Booker. There's not much of an impact. They haven't really been able to hit Mozgov. Only time he's really had good rolls to the rim has been easy dunks. Zeller too, he's had a few good ones, but it's mostly been when they're wide open. So having a guy like Okafor that could actually finish a little bit, it could be a nice thing. And at this point, this season, losing Jeremy Lin, that already took the possibility out of having a pretty competitive season. We don't talk about it enough, but this is a really young team, and losing a vet like Lin has hurt a lot, and it's a lingering effect. So just add a young guy, see if it can work out. Maybe you get lucky. You get 2 of the top 5 picks from the 2015 draft, lottery talent that you weren't supposed to have thanks to the Celtics trade. Who knows? Maybe it works out. We don't need Okafor to be an amazing player. We mentioned on the NBA Outlet podcast, if he could just kind of find a Greg Monroe type niche where he comes off the bench, plays with good energy, scores some buckets, but he doesn't have to go against starters. He doesn't have to play 30 minutes. I think that could be something that really works. Yeah, I'm all for it. I want the Nets to take a chance on him right now, I guess, because after watching Zeller and Mozgov, it hurts.
It does. It's painful. And even a guy like Enes Kanter right now, he's starting for the New York Knicks, our rivals. Obviously, because Kristaps is a bit too, I won't use Hornacek's words, but he doesn't want to play down low at the 5, even though he's got about 3 inches on everyone. He could easily fit in seamlessly into an offensive, driven center. Monroe, Kanter, those sort of guys have value in today's NBA. He's not a unicorn by any stretch. He's not Joel Embiid, Karl Anthony Towns, but he's got everything to prove. And I think with Brooklyn, with a guy like D'Angelo as well, who also is got that chip on his shoulder as well, I think that they could develop a nice chemistry as well. You mentioned that pick and roll. It might ease the load for D'Angelo a little bit offensively. It might make it easier for him offensively. And I just want it to happen. And if we don't have to give up anything outrageous, or if we had just take him on after hopefully the Sixers buy him out, then I think we need to be the number 1 team to do that, because I don't see a better fit for him, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I think, it depends on what he's looking for. If he wants to win games, obviously he's not been happy about losing a ton in Philadelphia. That could be an issue. Maybe he wants to go to a competitive team, but if he wants to go to a team where he has the opportunity to prove himself, Brooklyn is a great choice. So we'll definitely see what happens with that. I would think a 2nd-round pick and maybe Sean Kilpatrick should be able to get it done.
Yeah, I think I was going to say something around that mark, and he mentions in the comments that we've been making the rounds on Bleacher Report and the like, that he just wants to play. That's all he wants to do. So with Brooklyn, I could see him getting an easy 25 minutes a night. Replace those Zeller minutes and a few of those Mozgov minutes with Okafor minutes, and I don't think he really, obviously he hasn't been winning with the Sixers in the past few years, but right now, obviously they're seeing some success, but he's not a part of that. Whereas I think he could be a part of something with Brooklyn this year. We're not going to win. We're not going to be anywhere near where the Sixers are, where their talent is, but I think, he can contribute. He can give something on the floor. And I think that's where Brooklyn comes in, and I think that's where the fit lies.
Yeah, I mean, I could really hope it happens. Have him and Allen, some young centers. One of them probably will work out.
Yeah,
fairly confident in Allen and what he can do defensively, and Okafor pretty confident what he can do offensively. Obviously, the lack of jump shot in the defense is something to be worried about a little bit. But it was rumored this summer he lost 20 pounds, so he's trying to get in better shape, get quicker, which can help him. And anybody with a chip on their shoulder usually plays a little bit harder.
You mentioned it sprung to my mind, Nick, the fact that Jared Allen has such good defensive capabilities, whereas Okafor's strengths lie in his offense. There's a nice yin and yang effect there for the two, sort of like what we're seeing right now with Spencer Dinwiddie and D'Angelo Russell, and the balance that is created between the two of them. So I think that if a guy that's in the same draft as D'Angelo, there's nothing to lose in this. Really, there is nothing to lose.
Yeah, unless they really just hate his fit in the system and they don't think it could ever work out on what Kenny wants to do, and maybe they think they're better off keeping the second-round pick and getting somebody else. Maybe that's what they want to do. At this point, though, I wouldn't mind seeing somebody cut on the roster or something, or trying to open a roster spot in some way to maybe bring in a G League guy in a month.
Well, yeah, you look at a guy like Joe Harris and what he's doing. He's cemented his spot. Whereas you look at Isaiah Whitehead, who's been sent to the G League for the next few
I think
weeks.
He's starting the G League opener tonight.
Yeah, so he's out working there. Sean Kilpatrick hasn't really fit in well. He's a great locker room guy and a great teammate, and could be worth having around. But these are the tough moves that Sean Marks was brought in to make. And I think you make a legitimate point about, come the trade deadline in February, I'm sure the Nets will make some sort of move, whether it's a trade for a pick, so we can get more active in this year's draft, or whether it's picking up an expiring contract or taking on some salary, or hopefully picking up Jahlil.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens with that. But, if they're most likely, we're not going to see a move made before the next game. Do you want to see lineups and rotation changes for the next game?
Depends on the health of a lot of our bigs, Nick.
Depends on that. Let's assume everyone is healthy. Let's just assume everyone's healthy and back, except AC maybe.
Everyone's healthy. Yeah, everyone's healthy. Look, in my perfect world, I'm all in on the pace and space like you are, Nick. So I want to start. I mean, it lessens, I guess, the strength of our bench unit. But, you can start Booker for 4 minutes, bring him off, bring Mozgov on for, 7 or 8 minutes, and then Booker can play with those second units. I just think he brings an energy and experience, some basketball IQ that Mozgov really lacks. So I'd like to see us play a bit of small ball. Obviously, it's not going to solve all of our problems, but it's worth a change. If it's not working, why not make a change and see what can happen? If it doesn't work and we get bullied down low, as we have been, then, make the change. Bring in a Jared Allen, bring in Mozgov, bring in Tyler Zeller. But, we can't do any worse, I guess, where we're really struggling on the rebounding.
Yeah, and I think at times it definitely feels like this, that the bench is like substantially outplaying the starters. There's times where the bench comes in and they save the game, where they get the game closer, they get the lead back. It feels like sometimes the start of the game just starts off so slow. So I think a lineup change is necessary. I wouldn't mind seeing Spencer Dinwiddie starting. I know he's the backup point guard, but I think you could stagger their minutes so that they're both able to be on the floor at some point. And maybe you have to run Lever as the backup point guard for a few minutes a game. Like, I think they could survive like that. And I think they got to start games better. They need to start more positive, get things rolling. And one thing we know about Dinwiddie, he's great at running the offense and getting things running smoothly. He can get D'Angelo some easy shots early. And like you said, at the center position, I think you have to bench Mozgov. Now, does that mean bringing Booker? I don't know. Does it mean bringing maybe Jared Allen? You probably could get away if you pair Jared Allen with a Rondé Hollis-Jefferson and Damari Carroll. It's a little bit better than if you're putting him out there with an Allen Crabbe and a Rondé Hollis-Jefferson. Carroll's got a little toughness. He rebounds a little bit. We've seen Dinwiddie and Russell rebound a little bit. I think if you put out that lineup, I don't think it'll happen, but it would be interesting to see what Allen could do with the starters and having, the offense really easy for him and not asked to do much except rebound, easy putbacks and stuff like that. The only problem with that, and actually there wouldn't even be a problem with that because Dinwiddie's been, I think he's shooting over 50% from three this season. So you got plenty of floor spacing. He's shooting better than LeVert. He's not, Allen Crabbe and Joe Harris moving off ball, but he's still a great spot-up shooter, and he can help space the floor for this team. And Jared Allen actually is somebody you have to respect on offense, unlike Mozgov, who just can't even make anything nowadays. So I would be interested in seeing a Dinwiddie, Russell, Carroll, Rondé, Allen lineup.
Yeah, I think that's a really intriguing lineup, Nick. And then,
and you leave Booker on the bench, and you still got a solid bench unit too.
Yep, definitely. Booker or Allen, I think, are really key to the lineup experimentation for Coach Kenny, because both guys provide something that a lot of our other centers lack, which is energy, offense, and mobility. So I think it'll be nice to see, hopefully, a move made. I'm really hesitant to change Dinwiddie's role, but at the same time, I really like it in a sense because D'Angelo looks so much better out there in the preseason with Jeremy Lin. Like, he just looks so much more comfortable, so much smoother. He doesn't have to force the effort. Like, he can still run the point at times. Like, it doesn't mean Spencer brings the ball up every single possession because, like you mentioned, Spencer's good as a spot-up shooter. And even as a pull-up shooter. Like, that dagger at the end of the third was just ridiculous. And he mentioned on his Twitter page, he's like, "Hey, NBA, when are you going to actually at me?" It still hasn't happened for him. People need to put some respect on his name, because
I think he's only got added one time is when at the Cavs game. After the Cavs game, they gave him some love, but it's been an ongoing battle with him in social media accounts.
It needs to happen because he is one of the most improved players in the NBA right now. His game has gone to a new level that I certainly didn't expect. I'm sure maybe you might have, but I really didn't see this from Spencer, and he's been a mainstay. And I think him and Rondé have been our guys this season. And if those two weren't in our, contributing, then who knows where we'd be.
Exactly. And his three-point shooting is another thing I'm going to talk about again, is that if you look at the starting lineup right now, you're putting out Russell, LeVert, Carroll, Rondé, and Mozgov. Really, out of that starting lineup, there's only two guys who are good three-point shooters, and Russell's, hot and cold type. So in a motion offense, you have no spacing. So hypothetically, Kenny doesn't want to take Spencer off the bench role, but he does find ways to get D'Lo and Spencer on the court more. That's fine. I think you have to maybe go back to the Allen Crabbe in the starting lineup idea. They need more spacing for this offense to be efficient, and you have a Joe Harris on the bench, so you have the luxury of having two really good three-point shooters that move well off ball. So I think that could be another possibility too. I think there has to be some type of change because right now it's not working. And obviously it's early in the season, but I think we've seen enough against teams that aren't super talented and experienced to just abuse the starting lineup.
Yeah, and the Crabbe one is a good point, Nick, because he now has some momentum after that Lakers game. I would have been skeptical to start him against Los Angeles, but now he has some confidence, he has some comfort. It's a couple of games into the season now. I think we'll be hesitant to do it. I think it's more likely that Dinwiddie will come in just because he's had that experience. He's got that base under him, where I think Allen Crabbe is still building a base somewhat, like a lot of guys in the NBA are who haven't had like extended preseasons. But I think at some stage this season, whether it's game 10, 20, 30, or 40, Crabbe will surely be in our starting lineup. And that is really I'm sure that'll help us increase our percentages from three, because we've been pitiful from there in our past two games.
And one thing, like you said, having a big game coming off the Lakers game, if they were to start him after that game, it would be like another boost of confidence. Like, oh, I played really well. They liked what they saw from me. I attacked the rim more. I'm going to do that again and kind of keep building off it. And for LeVert's angle, it's tough because he's a young guy and you don't necessarily want to bench him, but the fit's not there. I think it'd be a little bit easier, though, in terms of like mental, confidence, to bench LeVert for Dinwiddie. And be like, we want to put Dinwiddie in the starting lineup. We need more of a point guard. And then we're going to give you a bigger role off the bench where you're kind of leading our second unit and having a better opportunity. I was actually really excited going the season because I didn't think LeVert would start. Obviously, Jeremy Lin went down and that changed things. And I was happy to see LeVert in a bench role where he was kind of doing his thing against bench players. Because obviously, LeVert's not at a point where he's going to be able to win a matchup consistently with a good defender like a KCP. He's just not there yet. He needs more development. He needs to get a little bit more confident, maybe by the end of the season. But I think I would have liked to see him more in a developmental role this year. But now they're having to count on him even more because of the injuries to Jeremy Lin.
Yeah, and I like that. I think Karras coming off the bench last year is where he showed a lot of his promise. the burden on him isn't as much when you're starting. You're expected to be on from tip off. Whereas coming off the bench, he can see how the game's going. He can see where the pace is. He can sort of work his way into it a little bit better. He can read the play a little bit better. I think that's one thing Karras can sort of struggle with a little bit. Sort of being like eyes wide open, sort of going, okay, there's so much happening, blah, blah, blah. And I mean, that's our motion offense in a sense. But, you know, if he starts off the bench, I don't think it's a demotion by any sense. I think there's, apart from probably D'Angelo and Rondé and Tamari when he's healthy, those three are our mainstays in the starting lineup. The other guard, forward, guard wing, and front court spot are certainly interchangeable, and I hope that they are throughout the season, based off of form and based off of chemistry.
Yeah, and I mean, we could even see something where you mentioned Karras, and one thing I think you have to remember about Karras too is that he had so many injuries in college, he hasn't got a chance to play a lot of high-level basketball. So this is, you know, he didn't even get a full rookie season. So I think this is almost like you have to kind of look at it as almost a rookie year type of thing because of the lack of games he's got in college, a lot of new teammates, not having guys in the court like a Jeremy Lin or a Brook Lopez that you can kind of count on. So I think it's a lot of growing, and I'm not really that nervous about Karras because I think his shooting stroke will come back at some point, but we got to see what happens. I wouldn't be surprised if Kenny wanted to like really get things interesting and he like fully committed to small ball and he wanted to have Damari play 4 off the bench and have Rondé in the 4 in the starting lineup, and then maybe going Dinwiddie, Russell, Crabbe, Rondé, Booker, and then or Mozgov or Allen, whoever you want to start at the center, and then having Damari play 4 off the bench and still playing, you know, close to 25, 30 minutes, but just not in the starting role. It's something to consider. I think, like you said, at this point, things aren't looking good. It's time to just start experimenting with different lineups.
Yeah, and I think the one thing is, last year, this is one thing we couldn't do. We didn't have the talent. We didn't have the depth to experiment. Whereas now there is that luxury where when guys are healthy, unfortunately that hasn't been the case the past game or two. When guys are healthy, we can experiment. We can play different lineups. And, you know, if a guy is cold, you know, you can bring in a guy off the bench who is an NBA-ready player. You know, I would say our only non-NBA-ready player off the bench would probably be someone like a Kilpatrick and a Zeller. Everyone else has the talent, has the nous to come in and contribute. Yes, we've shit on Mozgov like there's no tomorrow, but he's a vet. He's been in the league for long enough. He knows what's going on. So I like the flexibility we have now. That was one thing we mentioned in our earlier podcasts that we're really excited about, the flexibility we have now in our roster. And would be remiss not to make use of that.
Yeah, and one thing else we mentioned was the front court being a problem, and that has been a real case. But that wraps it up for today. Hopefully next time we speak to you guys, it's after a Nets win. We don't want to be talking about losses. What are we at? Like, what, 4 straight right now?
Yeah, it's been a poor run, but I have faith in Coach.
Yeah, I have faith in Coach Kenny, and like you said, we got pieces on this roster. You know, it sucks because the Nets had an easy part of the schedule to start the year, and I had a feeling that things weren't going to groove that smoothly. I didn't think Jeremy Lin would go down. Obviously, that had a big impact, but they still have plenty of time to kind of steady it up and just play better basketball. Because one thing we can say, they've been in both, you know, a lot of these games they've just lost, but they have not played anywhere close to their fullest capability.
No, and, you know, it's a process. It's everyone,
trust the process.
The saying is trust the process. Trust the process. I mean, I'm stealing that. I'm sure Joel Embiid will probably at me on Twitter if he hears this. But it's a marathon, the NBA season, and you know, 9-10 games in, you know, we're hesitant, but at the same time, there's light on the horizon, because it's not all doom and gloom when there's at least a semblance of a nucleus there. There's a semblance of where this team wants to go. We know where we struggle, where we lack, and throughout the season, the only way is up for a young team. You know,
exactly.
And look at, I think the Phoenix Suns are a perfect example. Look what's happened with them. Eric Bledsoe's out of the lineup. They changed their coach, and they've been reinvigorated. All it takes is a game or two, a lineup change or two, You know, a win or two, like just a short winning streak. You know, this road trip is important for team chemistry and also for getting a few wins on the board. And hopefully, it can set up our season nicely. Not necessarily to make a playoff push, but just to gel our guys and to get to know our system and to get more confident with what Coach Kenny wants.
Yeah, I think having a competitive season, like you said, not making the playoffs, but being not terrible, you know, being in a lot of games, getting around that 30 win mark, I think isn't still important because you want to see the improvements and you want to see, like you said, that's the positive about having a young team. Yeah, they're playing rough now. You'd rather see them play rough in the beginning of the season so they can play better as it progresses.
Yep, yep.
But and that wraps it up. Oh, go ahead, Jack.
Last point there. I think by the end of the season, when a lot of teams are sort of pulling up ship and it's like April, a lot of teams are starting to rest their players. That's when the Nets can get some easy wins. I know we sort of, with Brook Lopez, we rested a few of our guys and, you know, created a whole furor with the Miami Heat and such and the Bulls. But I think, you know, we're going to get better. And for Nets fans listening, as much as we've harped on some negatives, we're doing it in a sense that there is optimism there and there is light on the horizon and there are solutions to the problems that we've talked about.
Yeah, the Nets can play better and these guys can get better. And we've seen plenty of great flashes from guys, Dinwiddie, Russell, Rondé, even Levert's had some nice drives, you know, Allen, plenty of bright spots to watch up. It's still early, it's still really early in the season, but that wraps it up for today. As always, you can listen to us on iTunes, Blog Talk, OTG Basketball. And Jack, thank you for hopping on. And as always, thank you everybody for listening. And also, happy birthday, Jack.
Thank you, guys.